But
Yes.
I always say when you come to Africa, especially, if you come from the diaspora as an African person, or rather as a melanin person, a black
Yes.
person, it
Yes.
would be great to learn the history of South Africa.
Mm-hmm.
So Constitution Hill is one place that I would recommend.
Mm-hmm.
And the second place would be the Apartheid Museum. I would
Mm-hmm.
recommend that. But also even the Soweto tour so that you can connect the Constitution Hill, the
Yes.
Apartheid Museum history to Soweto.
Yeah.
You do Soweto and you learn more about what the politicians of the time, your Nelson Mandela, your Desmond Tutu, your Walter Sisulu, what they went through. So
Mm-hmm.
once you've done the history at Constitutional Hill and the Apartheid Museum, you can then go to Soweto just to do the tour so that you can also see the contrast of what, for example, I mean, you were staying in Sandton, of what
Yes.
Sandton looks like versus or vis-a-vis what the township looks like and
Yeah.
what apartheid has done to South Africa in making sure that there's two countries in one, where there's the very rich and then there's the poor, although we
Mm-hmm.
do have a middle class, but you can see the two disparities in terms of how white people live in South Africa and also how black people live in South Africa.
Mm-hmm.
However, I must mention that we've seen a huge growth from 1994 to date, the growth of the black middle class, where us as black people are now able to afford living in the burbs, driving
Mm-hmm.
nice cars, having good
Yeah.
careers. You've got your lawyers, you've got your doctors, you've got your
Mm-hmm.
engineers that are black.
Mm-hmm.
And we're doing fairly well for ourselves. And also thanks to the policies of the governing party that has ensured that there's transformation that takes place so that black people can also play in the economy, as
Yeah.
opposed to the past where we were limited to certain careers. You could only be a teacher, you could only be a nurse, or a policeman. You couldn't be a doctor, you couldn't be an engineer. But these days our kids are able to really be ambitious and
Mm-hmm.
start pursuing careers that we wouldn't have pursued
Yes.
back in the apartheid days. So those are the three places that I would recommend. However, as a family, I think when you come to Africa, you cannot miss out on doing the safari. So
Okay.
as much as I've recommended that you do the historical, the cultural sites, but I think also if you go and do your safari, now there's a safari location called Pilansberg, which is
Mm-hmm.
about 2 hours away from Johannesburg. It's not as far as the Kruger National Park. Now, the
Okay.
Kruger National Park is basically the premium when it comes to safari. That is the proper place to visit if you want to do the
Yeah.
safari. But if you want to do a scaled down safari, which you can still see the big five, Pilansberg is 2 hours away, and you can do that one as well.
Okay. And
As
Kruger is how far from Johannesburg?
Kruger National Park is about 4 to 5 hours
Okay.
drive, that is.
Yeah.
There's no airport. Well, there is an airport, but it's very small. It's Kukuza Airport. It's very small. So a lot of people drive there, and it's
Mm-hmm.
about a 4 to 5 hour drive,
Mm-hmm.
which is why I would then recommend that people do the Pilansberg, which is about 2 hours away.
Mm-hmm.
It's also just as great when you go there, you see the animals, you'll see your lions, your
Yeah.
buffaloes, your leopards, etc. So yes, yes. So that I also recommend to people landing in Johannesburg, wanting to
Mm-hmm.
know what to do.